Congratulations, you made it to part 3 in how to paint your guitar. This is by far the most boring and tedious part. Wait, didn't I have a beard in this series? Alright, now I feel a little better. So a little word of advice, beards will help you do everything just a little bit better. So thank you guys for making it to this part of the build. We are in the 3rd episode and the final episode where we're going to cut and buff the guitar. And what cutting and buffing is simply leveling the surface of the clear with the sandpaper and then shining it up with polish. So the first part of this video I actually did as a live stream on my Facebook, and it was sort of a play off of the Joy of Painting with Bob Ross. So over in the corner you'll see a Joy of Wet Sanding logo in some of the shots, not all of them, but some of them. So the first part was a live stream, and I'll link that entire live stream. It's actually for an hour. I'll link that at the bottom of the video so you guys can check that out if you want to. And every once in a while I stream something like that on Facebook. It's kind of fun to interact with everybody. You can find me over there at blah 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 blah. It's on the bottom of the screen. Alright, thank you guys. Let's dive right in and get this guitar shiny. While I'm live streaming, I'm also videotaping, so I'm going to have to talk to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. That's going to be kind of interesting. The basic point behind wet sanding is to get the orange peel off your clear coat and prep it for buffing, which will leave you with a high gloss shine. And that's what you're going to be after in a deep guitar finish is just that super high gloss, you know, custom car showroom finish. And the only way to get that is to flatten out your clear coat. And the only way to flatten out your clear coat properly is to wet sand through the grits. So this particular body was not too orange peely. So I'm not going to start with 600 or 800. I'm going to be starting with 2000 actually, which means I'm going to have to work a little harder to get everything level. The first thing you really have to understand about wet sanding is it's your first grit that levels the clear coat. Everything after that is pretty much to get rid of the scratches left by the sandpaper from these coats. So this right here, let me show you guys. This is the tub of water. In said tub of water is the paper I'm about to use. In this case, 2000 grit. Now there's differing opinions on how long to soak your paper in the water, your sandpaper, before you actually start to sand. And to be honest with you, some people say 24 hours, some people say 48 hours, some people say an hour. It really doesn't matter. The only thing the water does is provide lubrication across the surface to keep the sandpaper from gumming up on you. You don't want to get a fine grit sandpaper just all loaded up with dust immediately, because then it won't be doing anything. It'll be sort of like gliding a little cloud over the surface. So this is just a piece of wood with rounded edges, and that's important. I'm going to wrap my paper around. And the curved edges are going to keep any kind of sharp edge from the sandpaper where it would normally fold over a flat surface. It's going to keep that from hurting the guitar. So if you're real worried about your paper, you can just drizzle a little bit of water on there. Everybody's favorite word, drizzle. And then you just you commit. You make the moves that are probably going to make you hate yourself later when you screw this up, because it's easy to screw up your clear coat. So it's very important before you start your wet sanding, make sure your surface is completely clean, because you don't want to be dragging a piece of debris, a piece of debris around on your nice new clear coat. Alright, as you go, you will start to see a haze appear. In this haze, you'll be able to see high and low points. You guys kind of see that? I know it's hard to see. There's a little haze. See where it's drying? You can see it. All these low points is the bottom of the orange peel dips. So what we need to do is sand all of those out very carefully, and we're going to be left with a pretty thin clear coat. But on a musical instrument, you want a strong clear coat, but it also you don't want it super thick, because then you may end up losing some sustain from your instrument. You want to glide it across the surface The important thing about a wood block too is you want something that's really flat. So this wood block's pretty flat. Be very careful getting toward the edges of your instrument, because that's where it's most weak, because the clear coat can't pull on the edges as well as it can. And if you think about the edge as well as it can on the front and back, and if you think about the edge of a knife, the whole way a knife works is just by concentrating pressure. So you're concentrating all the force of your hand to the edge of that knife. When you concentrate all the force of the sandpaper on the edge of something, it's very, very easy to burn through. So I would recommend always doing edges and sides by hand for that specific reason. So there are some graphics on this base as these stripes down the middle, and they're a little bit raised, and sanding down the clear coat is going to help even out that little ledge that you can kind of see on the graphic to make it look a little more professional. Actually, a lot of the old Fender guitars, they would just straight up put vinyl stripes on them, so you can definitely feel them. But they did the same thing to muscle cars, so I guess that's acceptable. And you frequently want to clean off your surface and let it dry so that you can see how far down you've gone. Because like I said, it's going to be the first grit that really levels it. Everything else is more or less to get rid of scratches. Some people like to use soap, a little drop of soap, in with their water that they're dipping their paper into to smooth out the surface a little bit, to make it glide a little easier, is what they say. I have found no benefit in doing that. It's just a happy little stream, you guys. Just a happy little stream. That's all we're doing. We're just streaming it up, you know. Everybody has sad days, but we grab our guitars and some sandpaper and we just make those days better. We just sand those woes away. That's what we do. Happy little wet sanding. Now it's going to pull a little bit because you are sanding a urethane finish, so it's going to have a little bit of grip to it. It's the same thing just like when you're working on a guitar neck or you're playing a guitar and the neck feels sticky. That's just that polyurethane. And a lot of people will sand that back a little bit to make it a little easier to play, so that their hand doesn't feel like it's binding up on the back of the guitar. So if you look right here, I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see. If you look right here, we're pretty much done right here. We don't need to go any farther with 2000 grit. Here we need a little more. Down here we need more. So you just have to watch. It's like if it's a nice even haze, don't go any farther. Alright, so that's basically all there is to wet sanding. You're just going to go from a heavier grit, which in my case is 2000, but you can start at 800 if you have to. I mean, as low as you need to. Just be very careful with your clear coat. But you want to start at that low grit and make your way up to whatever your highest grit's going to be. In my case, normally I go to 5,000. I think with this instrument I only went to 3,000. So I went 2,000, 2,500, and 3,000. And the sanding block really helps. And make sure that you take the time to clean your guitar thoroughly in between each grit, and especially before you move on to your polishing. Which is what we're about to do. Alright, so using a wool pad, that's what I'm going to start with. You can also start with a coarse foam pad if you like. I usually start with a Meguiar's medium cut. I haven't really seen much of a reason to go to a heavy cut in the beginning. The wool pad really does that. Then you can overlook your work. You see how it's kind of got a haze to it still. And we're going to move on to a finer cut and a softer pad. And again, just like with the wet sanding, sometimes it takes time. Yeah, sometimes it takes a few passes. Alright, so using a softer foam pad, I'm using my Turtle Wax swirl remover, which to me seems like it's a little bit more gritty than than the Meguiar's swirl remover, which is what we're going to use after this. But make sure you keep it moving. You can drizzle a little bit of water on your finish if you need to keep it from burning through. I've done that plenty of times. And just don't sit in an area because it will heat up. So just keep it moving. Again, we clean off between every single grit. Actually, between every pass. And you can see that shine start to come out. So we're starting to get somewhere now. And then we do the fine polish with a slightly softer pad. And it just takes time. That's what I'm doing here. And after that, I actually put the base together and let it sit so Daryl could check it out and play it, and we'll come back and we'll do the fine polishing later on. Here's the silver tone we just finished painting. I got Daryl, who this base is actually for.
Yeah.
He's modeling it.
It's so nice.
See the stripes. Also polished up the frets just to make it look prettier.
Yeah. We gotta put new strings on it.
Yeah, it needs new strings.
But I got those. You want me to flip it around?
Yeah, flip it around. In about a month, once the polyurethane is fully cured, we'll buff it one more time and get a really nice shine on it.
Yeah.
Even though Daryl's not a super huge gloss fan.
Oh, I'll take it. This is a really nice paint job. I like it. You can see how the sparkles are coming through. There's different little bits of different tone in there. It just looks really, really good, especially in the neck joint here, in that area. Feels good.
Feels good, man. Everybody remembers this is the $40 base that had the giant hole up here.
Yeah, not there anymore.
No more hole. That's what it's all about. So you guys at home can definitely paint your own guitar. I'm sure we'll have some kind of video soon of Daryl playing this thing in action.
Oh yeah.
So it's been a couple weeks since we did any work on the bass. Because we were letting that clear coat harden, and I can look at it and I can tell it's ready to go. It's ready to get that good shine. So once again, this is the way I do it. Everybody else does it differently, and hopefully you watch a bunch of these videos on YouTube, you can kind of glean your own way of doing it. So there you go. So let's get polishing, and the first thing we're going to do is use professional swirl remover. We're going to use that, and then we're going to move into machine glaze. Now you're supposed to use this with a buffer, but I'm doing it by hand, so because we've already did the buffing, and I like to finish it up by hand. So make sure you have very clean cloths. I just cut up an old t-shirt that was washed. You don't want any dirt or anything to be rubbed into your finish. So just using the Meguiar's polish again. By hand, you can vary your pressure. You just kind of got to feel it. You know, it comes with practice. And I work in sections. So here I'm doing the bottom of it. And then I'll flip it over and do the back. The fun part that takes all the time is inside the horns, the little curves. You just have to take your time. Clean thoroughly before you do your final pass with the glaze, the machine glaze, which is what this stuff is. Just make sure it's very, very clean before you start doing this, because the worst thing in the world is to drag a heavier grit over your nice clean clear coat and ruin it. So yeah, I do this a little bit faster with this stuff, and here I'll speed it up for effect. But that's really it. You just keep going and keep working it. That's all you got to do. It comes out looking pretty good, I think. I really like the Meguiar's polishing products. And the back looks very nice. Alright guys, thank you so much for making it through this series and just toughing it out with me. And I say we did a pretty good job. I'm pretty stoked about it. Daryl's really stoked about it. And when you can see your reflection in your instrument, that's how you know you've done a good job. Anybody can do this at home. All of you guys, I hope you're following along with me and doing it at home and getting really good results. Because anybody can. Just put the time and the effort and the elbow grease and really get in there, and you can do it. So again, you know, I hope to make more tutorial videos like this, and maybe do some like team ups with some of you guys. Maybe we can come up with some cool stuff to do. But again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've made your very own shiny guitar at home. And I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.